Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Emily Hiles, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Wing Commander Michael Garside. We warmly welcome the family of Private Arthur Hector O'Halloran, whose story will be told shortly. We're privileged to acknowledge the Honourable Dame Annette King, New Zealand High Commissioner to Canberra, the Honourable Pine Enare, New Zealand Minister for Defence and Whānau Ora, Associate Minister for Health, Housing and Tourism, and the accompanying delegation. We're also honoured to welcome Admiral John Aquilino, Commander, United States Indo-Pacific Command, accompanied by Lieutenant General Greg Bilton, Chief of Joint Operations Australia, and their accompanying delegation. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, flowers of the forest. Wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private Arthur Hector O'Halloran. Arthur O'Halloran was born in 1894 to John and Richard Tina O'Halloran of Williamstown, Victoria. His father worked on the wharves and was an active member of the Stevedores Union. His older brother Tom was a well-known player with South Melbourne in the Victorian Football League. Arthur O'Halloran attended the Central State School and went on to work as a labourer in the district, possibly on the docks, like his father. Arthur O'Halloran enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force shortly after the outbreak of war in 1915. He began his military training at Broadmeadows Camp before leaving for active service overseas with the 7th Battalion in October 1914. After arriving in Egypt in early December, O'Halloran and his battalion continued training at Mena Camp in Cairo and at Ismailia. In early April 1915, the men of the 7th Battalion left Cairo by train and then embarked at the port of Alexandria, headed for Gallipoli. After an hour and a half, anchored off Gaba Tepe in the pre-dawn of the 25th of April 1915, the men were towed ashore and made an attack. As the men rushed for the heights above the beach, the battalion quickly became muddled with other Australian units. It took some days to sort out the situation, and it was not until late May that authorities determined that the 7th Battalion had probably sustained 400 casualties on the 25th of April 1915. Private O'Halloran survived the danger of the early days on Gallipoli. He spent his days with other members of his battalion, desperately digging in, trying to establish a secure perimeter. On the 5th of May, the men were called down to the beach and he embarked in the early hours of the morning for Cape Helles to the south of Anzac. 3 days later, with very little warning, they were called to attack. The 7th Battalion quickly formed up to attack and advanced with little idea of where they were going or what resistance to expect. The Turks held the position very strongly and were well entrenched. While the attacking Australians came under heavy fire from the moment the operation began, they saw little of the enemy and many reported having nothing to shoot at. They dashed forward in bursts, being forced down by the enemy fire, but were ultimately forced to retire. More than a third of the attacking troops became casualties. One of those killed was Private Arthur O'Halloran. No record remains of the manner of his death, but it was almost certainly a result of the murderous machine gun fire the 7th Battalion was forced to advance into on the 8th of May 1915 at Cape Helles. His body was never recovered, and today he is commemorated on the Helles Memorial on the southern tip of the Gallipoli Peninsula. He was 21 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. A photograph of Private Arthur O'Halloran is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Arthur Hector O'Halloran, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, We will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director and staff, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.